Hi, I'm Jazz Tanke, Senior Artisans Editor at Variety, and I'm thrilled to be here today focusing on the crafts that come together, creating exceptional new worlds presented by CBS Studios. So we'll be focusing on visual effects, costumes, and directing. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists. We have Jason Zimmerman, Visual Effects Supervisor of Clarice and Star Trek Discovery. Costume designer Gersha Phillips of Star Trek Discovery, Jake Braver, visual effects supervisor of The Stand, and Brooke Kennedy, EP and director of The Bite. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
I've touched on a tiny bit of your resume, but everybody, you've got such an incredible resume and body of work. And, I wish we could talk all day, but I'm just going to dive in right away. And Brooke, starting with you, what attracts you to a show?
It used to be the material, but now it's people. Honestly, I like to work with Jake. I like to work with a creative group that is very stimulating. I think like everybody on the panel here, we're very left brain, right brain thinkers. We love the creative side. We also like the execution side. I love the huddle. I love being around a group of people who are pushing and exceeding and trying to make the material the best it can be.
Okay. And Gersha, what about for you as a costume designer? Like, what attracts you to a project?
I think the material still does attract me. I'm definitely, excited when I have something new and different that I get to do. And I like the group of people as well is also very important. And, getting to work with different people. That's one of the different things about working on television is that, I've been on Disco now for this being almost my 5th year. So I've been working with a lot of the same people. We do get, the directors that come in and day player casts and things like that come in that shake it up a bit. But it's been an interesting ride. And, I think I've enjoyed, collaborating with the team and, working on the amazing types of material and things that we get to do and the worlds that we're building, especially. It's very exciting and awesome.
I love that. And Jason, I mean, as I said in the intro, you're working on Clarice and Star Trek Discovery as a visual effects supervisor. What attracts you to a project?
I think it's a combination of what both Gersha and Brooke said. I mean, material is definitely important. Having variety in what you're doing so that you're not doing the same thing day in and day out, which we have on both shows is awesome. It's a different challenge all the time. And then I definitely think the people is super important. I mean, being able to get up in the morning and collaborate and laugh and work through a challenge is a lot of fun. So I think those are probably my primary things.
Jake, what about for you?
I think it's about the material as well about the people, having the right group of people to collaborate, to kind of jump into the, bringing a project to life, I think has so much to do with it because it's so collaborative at its core, what we do.
Yeah. And, Jason mentioned the word challenge. The last year has been a challenge for everybody in the industry. And Brooke, you went out there and you filmed at the height of the pandemic with a production team under the new, COVID onset safety protocols. What was it like filming a show and directing those episodes? How do you even prep in the pandemic?
Well, it was great. First of all, the show was born in June of the Kings calling me and saying, we're worried the crew's not working. We're worried for our people. We're together at this point, 12, 13 years. We've got an idea. And they kind of told it to me. And I said, we were in the same place. And I said, write it, let me see. And they wrote it. And I said, what we did was we invented a whole new way to shoot. And it's interesting with the panel here because these are the biggest shows on TV you're dealing with right now. What all of you accomplishes in any given episode is truly amazing. We went the other way. I was able to take the script, and essentially it was originally called The Bite, and it's about people turning into zombies during the pandemic. It was a wonderful script. And I laid out for the Kings how I thought it could be shot, which none of us could be in the same room together. And I actually created an experiment in my home in New York. I was in Santa Barbara, where I had different people come in, set up iPhones and Blackmagic cameras. And then I called Audra McDonald. I said, would you do me a favor if I sent you a couple of pages? Would you go do this? And everybody had a key. They left a key, opened the door, and literally nobody was ever together. And that was wonderful, because what the pandemic did was it freed all of us to think of a new way of approaching something. I went to and then once we got the go from Spectrum, I went to all the unions, we talked to everybody. We said, we can keep people working, we can keep them safe. We took a townhouse, and then we had to mesh cultures. We had to mesh video culture with film culture. And we did everything. Gersha, there was, everybody did wardrobe over Zoom, and we would send clothing to them. And then we do it over Zoom, hair and makeup, locations, everything was done this way. And then we'd come together. And the only person who could be with a director, and we follow all industry protocols, the only person who could be with the actors, rather, was a director. And if there was a couple, they were married, they were quarantining together. It was all very precise. So one of the great things was, I spent 12 hours a day with the actors, and I ran with water and said, fix your hair. And I said, and I would push the cameras around a little bit. We'd finish something, they would go into a safe room, and crew would come in and move the cameras, sound, they would leave. I would come back in with the actors. It's an entire new visual narrative. And you will see, you cannot believe that we were never in the room together. And what made it great is not just all the crafts that we all do, but visual effects has gone to such a place that we were able to shoot with Sony Blacks in 6K, and Jake and Jason were able to take this footage and turn them into pretty clever zombies.
It is amazing when people see it, it's mind-blowing.
It is, and that was so great about everybody, is challenging all of us to, think in ways we've never thought before. Makeup was sent in a little, we did everything we all do, but then we customized it so we didn't have to interact. And I have to tell you, we really worked to put the Broadway community back to work. And watching actors, they would put up curtains, and they would move paintings, and they would pick up chairs. We were all on the same plane trying to, here's a barn, I've got a piano, let's put on a show. Everybody worked from the exact same level.
My gosh. And, Gersha, your work is phenomenal on Star Trek Discovery. You start the season went, resumed filming during the pandemic, but, what was it like for you as a costume designer, not having access to, as many places as you would have done? I guess the internet would have been your greatest source. Talk about adapting, and then we'll talk about Star Trek.
Yeah, I think, for us, we started early, sort of sussing out what our vendors were doing, and who was able to still produce, and what their production lead times were, because that was a big thing for us, because we knew we were going to be changing some things with the uniform, as everybody knows now. So we had to get those colors all custom made. So, there was a bit of journey with that, and just a little bit of sort of like R&D and figuring out where everybody was at. And then, I think, the most important thing for me was always going to be the safety of the crew, and that they were happy and felt comfortable coming back to work. So that was a bit of work. And for us too, we had to set up our office and make it all COVID friendly, I guess is the word, or follow the COVID protocols. We lost desks and moved people around, and all of that sort of stuff. So it was a pretty interesting experience, challenging, I will say, for sure. Learned a lot about people, because everybody's thresholds are different, and everybody deals with stress differently. So, it was very interesting, and challenging, but I feel like we're getting through. Do you know what I mean? I think that we have a great team, you know, still, like our producers are excellent and everybody's really on board with making sure that we're all safe and that we're, you know, following the protocols as needed. So it's been a very interesting journey, I will say.
All right. Whilst we're talking to you, what was it like talk about creating the mirror universe costumes? I'm going to ask you about that because that's like one of the highlights.
This is our second round of Mirror Universe. So we wanted to do it. We call it Mirror Universe 2.0. We wanted to do it better. We knew the things that we did that we didn't love the first time. So we just, the idea was just to make it look better and just to execute our molds and our builds better, like the things that we did make, all the chest plates, and 3D printing the overlays and just refining all of those things so things just looked a lot better. And I think it was really fun to watch all the cast get back into it too. They were all really excited. I have some great footage of Michelle Yeoh doing like a runway walk down the set and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think, the main goal for us was just to execute a better look and just tell the story a little better, I guess. You know what I mean? I think that was basically what we were trying to do.
I love that. So Jake, I'm going to ask you, were you a fan of the Stephen King book before you even started working on the series?
I wasn't a big fan. I'd read it. And then I was involved with The Stand when it was going to be a feature at Warner Brothers. So I kind of got pretty steeped in the world when it was going to be a film, and then had a long way away from it, and then came back when it became the series. But I mean, he's such a phenomenal author, and I think many people consider it his sort of, biggest, scopiest. I mean, it's kind of his Lord of the Rings, really. And
there are some incredible effects. It's not just world building. I mean, there's the New Vegas, there's, Randall Flagg's Wolves, and the tube necks. I mean, what's it like working on those visual effects? Like, what goes into that?
Well, a lot. It's interesting. I was very lucky. I got to start on The Stand before we were greenlit by the studio, doing designs and concepts. So from very early on, I was working in tandem while the writers were writing. So we really bounced things off each other in that stage a ton. I mean, they would write something, we would do some art. They would say, "That's great, let's try this." And I think it was very collaborative. The tube necks are an interesting thing because they're so not part of our reality. I mean, when you get sick, your neck does not swell up to be the size of a tire. So we did extensive testing. We looked at makeup solutions, we looked at pure visual effects solutions, and we ended up with a solution that was, I would say, about 70% visual effects. Essentially, we built these collars for the actors to wear that limited their movement as if they had a swollen neck. But then replaced that collar later with a CG neck that could ooze and pulse and breathe and have life. So really, again, a collaboration between visual effects and makeup. New Vegas was such an interesting undertaking because we wanted it to look like Vegas, but without 99% of the population because they're dead. So we did a 4-day scout to Vegas, and we climbed up on the roof of just about every hotel in Vegas and really decided where we wanted to be on the Strip. And so much of that was influenced by what New Vegas was like as a society. So, Ben Cavell, our showrunner, wrote this amazing document that nobody's really seen. That's the incredible backstory of New Vegas. And it goes through like all of the rules and what happens if you're a good person or a bad person, and if you're allegiant to Randall Flagg. But all of these rules really helped us develop the visuals because it answered questions like, is there litter on the street in New Vegas? Well, no, there isn't, because if there was, you wouldn't be alive very long. So it sort of all came together rather early.
Yeah. And Jason, what about for you? I mean, you've created some epic battles on Star Trek Discovery, how far in advance do you get to prep on your visual effects?
It sort of depends on what the effect is going to be. For things that are big, like a space battle or something, we get a lot of heads up and we start planning right off the bat. You know, when there's any semblance of an idea, even if it's a one-page idea of what the script is going to have and the different sort of, you know, ships, what sort of battle it is, where they are, you know, all that we know fairly quickly. And then we start the process of sort of trying to figure out a choreography of everything, a geography of the battlefield, if you will, understanding where everybody is and what the scene will progress towards by the end of the scene. So it takes a little bit of time, especially for space battles. That's something, you know, that is a little bit more involved. But, you know, oftentimes we get it when we see the script for the first time, or maybe it's a script outline. It just sort of depends. But definitely in the bigger sequences, we get a heads up, you know, either from Alex Kurtzman or Michelle Paradise, or somebody will give us a shout and say, hey, just so you know, start planning for this. So we get a lot of heads up.
So, and Brooke, I'm going to come back to you. You know, now that we're talking about visual effects, and you mentioned zombies and, you know, people turning into them. When you know that there's going to be a lot of visual effects involved, or, you know, how does that impact your directing style, or does it not?
Well, you know, first of all, we don't give anybody a heads up about anything. Jake will tell you. We think of it while we're moving along and they get dumped on. You know, it's a collaboration. And that's why I kind of said, you know, it's not the material anymore, it's the people, because sometimes I don't see what other people see in it. You know, and if somebody, you know, they'll say, I'm on it, and they'll start to tell me what they see, and I see what they see. So you have people like, you know, all the people here, Gersha and Jake and Jason, and you start to talk about it, and you're collaborating together to come up with a unique image. They're bringing to me not only their imaginations, but new technology or technology that they think I'm game to push. And Gersha's, you know, she's probably like me. We want to keep it real in front of the camera as much as possible. And I'm that way too. I really want to keep it real. But the combination and smoothing it out and doing certain things actors can't do. They can't walk the way their mouths, but Gersha will help me design a costume where their jaws are elongate. You know, that's the fun of it all. And that's why sometimes you can take not so good material, and people like this can make it great because they see things on their unique thread. As a director, you're the conductor. And I say this over and over. I'm just a collaborator. It's only on a bad day I have to direct. Now, being an EP and thinking of how to do it, that's a different side of my brain. And that's as much fun as anything I do. I think it's why it makes me an easier director. But I'm a collaborator, and I'm trying to take all the stuff that's going into the cocktail and making sure that all of their input comes through, and that the actor is raised and lifted by it to do work that they can inhabit and not overwhelmed because they're insecure about the material. And that's what these crafts can do. I mean, we're all shocked by visual effects at the end of the day. It's getting better and better and better. But it's making people like Gersha and I, who are the physicals, it makes us push harder to do things because, you know, we want that work, we want that craft, we want the magician of it all. That's what I see a lot with my wardrobe department, Dan Lawson. There's more magic in the textures and the things we're doing and the kind of collaboration we're having than ever before.
Yeah.
Did I bury you, Gersha? Sorry.
What's that?
Did I bury you? I'm sorry.
No, it's very true. It's very true. It's absolutely well said.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, how does your process change and your approach change between shows? You know, when you've got different shows that are completely different storylines. This is for everybody. Gersha, you want to start? Or
I mean, really, it's, you know, it comes from the script. Like, whatever you have handy to you, that's where you start. And then based on, you know, that you start concepting or coming up with your ideas. And, you know, then it's the collaboration with the directors and the producers and what they're thinking of, and the body of the actor comes in. For me, that's, you know, those are the journey that I go on. And, you know, mostly, though, I will say it comes directly from the script, and that also pertains to different genres or different worlds, because even within Discovery, we have Star Trek Discovery, but then we have, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not. Well, Nivar, I'm going to say, I think that was in our last, it's in season 3. So we have Nivar, we have other worlds that we create, like the Klingon Empire and so on. So there's usually some sort of a little blurb within our script that will tell me like what the world sort of is to look like. And if there isn't, I will go talk to my producers, Tunde and Michelle, and find out what they want it to look like, what these people should look like, how they're dressing, what the land is, what the planet looks like, all of those things that help inform what I'm going to do. So but it does start always with the script for me, I think for most of us actually. So.
Jason, what about for you? Where does that start when you've got a world, you're building Clarice, and then the next day you're working on a shot for Star Trek or some other project?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely starts with the script, like Gersha's saying, and I think sort of embedding yourself and installing yourself with the different productions and the different departments to sort of get a sense of the spirit of each show, what the tone of each show is going to be. Obviously with Discovery, I'm fortunate enough that they're completely different shows, so we're not going to get it confused with a Clarice necessarily. But there's also tonally, a Discovery is a lot more visually, stimulating than a Clarice. Clarice is a lot more of it's a drama, you know what I mean? It's a thriller. So the types of effects that you do are meant to be different and have a different impact than you would have if they would be a Discovery. So I think part of it is just knowing that each show needs to be treated like sort of with it has its own personality, it has its own requirements. And so just keeping that in mind when you approach each shot.
Yeah. Jake, what's your approach?
Yeah, I think so much of it is about the script and tone and developing a common language with the other creative department heads so that you all know you're talking about the same thing. And a lot of times it's the script. I mean, one of the first things I'll do on a project is I'll just put together a bunch of references. And frequently some of them are really wrong and some of them might be closer to correct. But it starts to give you an idea of, are you in the right area? Is everybody thinking the same way? Because sometimes there can be some different ways to interpret a certain thing in a script, or sometimes it's something that needs to be sort of built out more. So I always find that starting with reference, so you can create a language between the filmmakers is really important.
Brooke, what about for you? I mean, the good fight and the bite. I don't know. We might see zombies on there.
No. It's as everybody said, a great script. I think we're all very fortunate. We're working with great writers, and that's the roadmap. That's the seashell. If you pick it up to your ear, you can hear, you can feel it. We all have a sensory piece about this, which is why we're in this. And I do believe everybody comes to this business because they want to tell a story. I don't care if you're the fourth grip. Everybody's here to tell the story. And I think those of us who are fortunate enough to move up just understand when it hasn't washed over us and not. So we're looking for our muse in it. So it starts with that. I would say this to you though. I could not move a camera on the bite. So, because as an EP, you have to help the writer find a visual narrative that we can make each week in and out of. We're not Mission Impossible. We can do X amount of work, X amount of days, and that's what we do. So on the bite, we couldn't move the camera because I couldn't have anybody on set. So I designed the whole show. You walk in one shot, you walk into another shot. I could put 6 cameras, I think 5 at the end we figured out up. And so I would have you walk into your close-up over. So I had to design it very differently at a narrative level, visually. I did the pilot of the bite. Then now I do the first episode of the good fight. The camera never stopped moving. I could not push these boys. I said, I want a crane. I want dollies. This thing is going to move because I haven't been able to move for 3 months. But I do think those of us who move through it, it's craft, right? It's craft. And that craft informs the other craft. So you're working on that planet there, and that planet's red or blue, or Jake's doing Jake, and then it informs something else because you've learned something from that. Because we're always students. I mean, that's what I love about filmmaking. We're observers, we're students, and then we go into our own imagination to bring forth a universe, even though you've never been there, but it has to have a familiarity to it. It has to have something that people see. And that's what's so fun. So you can move between it, so you're drunk the first 3 days. Nobody even.
That really rings true, Brooke, to me. And I think the thing that I've missed the most is sitting in a big conference room with everyone, overhearing the little things that you might not hear if you're just on a Zoom. I mean, listening to the tail end of a wardrobe meeting and hearing something, or listening to a location meeting. We've had to work, and I think everyone has really good practices now to bring that back into the fold. But you have to work to get these things under the circumstances in which we're working right now. But I think those little tidbits and nuggets that you pick up along the way are so helpful when you're trying to make something that's of a whole.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the hardest things these days, and I'm afraid it's going to stay, is casting. Because I still want to be a room. There's a sniff test. I'm sure there's a better way to say it but you get something, you pick up something, something that you didn't know. I mean, especially, I don't know visual effects of you, but I know Gersha knows what I'm talking about. I mean, you're standing in a room and there's something that exchanges between us all, and you want to, in your craft of helping them become somebody else, you acknowledge something about them silently, right?
It imbues into what you're doing, like the language somehow transfers over, for sure.
Yeah, and this Zoom casting, God love them, but you got to get in a room with somebody.
For sure. I mean, on Star Trek, I can say, standing next to somebody or looking at somebody and saying, well, the ship's going to do this. I mean, I can't tell you how many ship battles start with your hands. It does this and it flies this way. Being able to do that with somebody in the same room is a lot different than having somebody, whip up an iPad and show you the green screen and say, does this look okay? And I'm thinking of doing, it's just being there and seeing somebody's body language and being able to relate in that same room. There's definitely a step that's lost that you have to work really hard to get back.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what did you learn about your craft during or feel during the pandemic? Because I think, as Brooke said, it's been a learning experience for everybody.
I mean, we stopped shooting. We finished shooting The Stand in Vancouver 2 days before lockdown. We didn't get to about 5 days of shooting in Las Vegas that we ended up getting under COVID protocols in July. But we never went into post. We just left set and all went home. And, I had 15 visual effects vendors on the show, all of whom, the same time we were transitioning to work from home, they were. And I was really touched by the resiliency of everybody. It really, everybody was working towards the same goal, and none of our 15 vendors missed a beat. And it took some doing and figuring out new ways to do things, but it was remarkable to me how productive we could be collaborating and working from home. I mean, in visual effects, it's not like I ever went around to all 15 vendors I had on a show and sat down and spent 3 hours there. I'm used to, getting on CineSync and, video calls, but it really unlocked a whole new thing when I would get an email from a supervisor at a facility at 8:30 at night because they had dinner with their family and then went back and then came back to work and looked at something with fresh eyes. And it was a pretty interesting experience.
Yeah. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Jake said rings true with us too. I mean, specifically the resiliency. I think the passion, Brooke had said that when they were shooting The Bite, I think that there were actors fixing curtains and stuff like that. And I think it just speaks to, everybody who works on these shows cares so deeply about it that we all went home. In my case, we had just finished shooting. Actually, we had just finished posting the last episode of Picard when we went into lockdown. Had about a week to get up to speed remotely, and then everybody's working again. And for us, everybody was right back at it. No one missed a beat. It was really nice in the sense that I actually think it forced more communication because, again, to that point about not being in the same room, you have to check in, and sometimes I think you have an office and somebody else's office is down the hall and you just kind of assume things are working. But in this case, we set up, team calls and credit to my team every day, 10 a.m. every day, 7 p.m. We would jump on a call. We'd talk about the day, what's next, challenges. Did the same thing with our vendors, and so it actually created a better system for us and forced a better communication and process overall.
Yeah.
Gersha, did you want to add?
Yeah, I think communication became the key for us too. I think among our team and with the rest of the show, et cetera, like just making sure that we were able to communicate and understand that we're all on the same page, because not being able to have those meetings in person and see the enthusiasm and everything else, all the energy that's coming off, it was really important that we communicated thoroughly. And then the other thing I would say is just the camaraderie from the set, the team, everybody, like all through, I remember seeing everybody for the first time, how wonderful that was. It was just lovely to see people in the beginning. And, now as we go, everybody that comes through, it's just a pleasure to see them and just to have, like, even if it's like with masks on and what we're doing, just be able to be together on some level, you know what I mean? That's really great. And one day we'll see Jason.
Oh, wow.
No,
Yeah.
if I can just add, this is our history. I mean, we are relatively still a young industry.
Mm-hmm.
And our ancestors who put a camera over their shoulder and marched into the desert. I mean, this is what makes us great. It's war for us. And I don't take away from those who fight a war, but we are in the pits together. And the ability of this crew, or to look at people and go, I've looked at my crew and go, I don't have a shot left. And they go, we can do, that camaraderie, that feeling you get together to do. And, I've been through 9/11 with my company. I've been through burned down my offices, but every time, and it brings me to tears, I watch people march back in. I watch them pick up the wardrobe, say, we can do this. I can fix this in post, Brooke. We can make this happen. I can be there for you. I did a whole show during a blackout. Juliana Margulies, she crawled out of her camper through a window this big in wardrobe. And she was with Mike, and don't worry, there's this forward momentum and this thought for process behind that. It's just stunning. And I admire all of you for marching back and finding new ways. And in another year, we'll ask ourselves, what things should we keep and what things should we throw away from this? But it's really something, these people.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned family. So what do your families think of the shows that you've worked on? Are they watching your shows? Like, let's just have that conversation, because we were talking about technology earlier and getting, them set up with, where do I watch this show? So that's why we're having this, where I'm asking that question.
I have a family, but also my friends really love the show. I have a friend that is obsessed with Star Trek Discovery, and she just loves the storyline. And, she's a Black woman. And so obviously having Sonequa be the captain and watch that journey. And and also what she loves about it is our science, because we have these really great storylines that happen through science that she really understands and really appreciates. So I know she's a huge fan. So that's kind of nice. It was unexpected. And she was just so thrilled about, like, when the next season started. And then she kept calling me as it was going through. And obviously she loves the clothing and the costumes as well. So it was just it's a win-win. So it was just really great to hear her, enthusiasm for the show. It was really great.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, my family's super supportive. It's funny. I think they actually end up watching most of the stuff I work on before I do, just because after I finish a show and I've looked at the same shot for 5,000 times, I just want to step away and forget about it for a second, so that when I go back, I actually can watch it as a viewer again. But yeah, they're super supportive. I mean, some of my extended family were Trekkies for years, so it's to be able to work on this, and they send me little texts or screenshots of things. It's cool.
Jake, what about for you?
Yeah, I mean, The Stand is a funny one because there's so much horrific stuff in it. I feel like, there's one episode that when my mom watched it, I made her a little cheat sheet. I said, when this happens, cover your eyes and look away. Because I just knew a rat crawling out of someone's throat in a sewer was not something I was ever going to hear the end of. So I was just like, when that happens, just look away for 45 seconds and then you can look back. that strategy seemed to work pretty well. I think she made it through the episode, or she lied to me. I'll never know.
Brooke, what about your family and friends? The good
You know,
fight, the bite.
The bloom is off the rose. I've been at it too long. And they're like, it's like, you want to watch my shit in reruns, or do you want to watch it live? My mom can't find the stuff. And when she does, she's like, who cares? And I'm like, it's just, or there's not enough sex in it, or there's something wrong. Or if I say, well, do you like the direction? And then I realize, if you want Spielberg to like your direction, you don't want your mother to see your direction. It's a very fine line. She's not going to say, what a great shot. I'm very fortunate. My partner reads everything I do, every script. And that's a special connection. She used to be in the business, but she very smartly got out of props a while ago. But as I said to you, I used to start the Good Fight, the Good Wife. I have producer meetings every week, and I do it after the show would air when we were on network. And we'd start the meetings by, what did your mother think of the show? And we'd go around and we'd all talk about our mothers, and the plot didn't work, or I really like that, or what's wrong with that. And now our mothers can't find the show, so we don't have to talk about it. They don't think to say, would you send it to me? That's a whole other, right?
By the way, never. I'm sure we could all finagle a link if someone asked.
I did get my mother on VR, Jake.
That must have been exciting.
I got 95. I got her doing Beat Saber for Mind.
That's great.
So, Brooke, last question before we wrap this panel. We now live in a peaceful world where, we haven't sat here while this panel has been going on thinking there's going to be a riot, an insurrection at the Capitol. Like, there's peace in the world. What can you tease about the new season of The Good Fight?
Well, look, we are, The Good Fight has been one of the most exciting things I've ever done from every single level. And I'll tell you, and first of all, I've never had a crew that was so diverse. Something happened the other day. I had a young Asian guy, and I went over to him. I said, do you want to be a DP? I've been watching you, electrician. He turned to me and he said, I didn't even know I could be in this business. I thought you had to be Irish or Italian. He said, honestly, I didn't even think I could get here, so I don't know what to do. It was really something. We deal in a lot of politics. We deal head on with what's going on in the world right now. And, as we've all looked, yesterday is a beginning. Yesterday is a beginning. And it's about, in my company, we talk about it every day. It's about what we're doing individually and what we're saying on screen. And one of the things The Good Fight will be dealing with this year is, why does a Black law firm have a white partner with a name? And it's kind of great.
Amazing. Well, we look forward to that. Brooke, Jason, Gersha, Jake, thank you so much for that incredible conversation.
Thank you.
So nice meeting you all too. Good luck. Be safe.
Nice meeting you all.
Nice meeting you guys.
Hey, Jason.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thanks.